There are a record number of homes currently listed for sale here in the Greater Toronto area, and unfortunately, the Bank of Canada doesn't want to do anything to help out our current real estate market, as they've announced for the second consecutive time that they're holding the interest rate steady. We're going to go over the May 2025 stats together, and I'm going to share my insights from being in the market every single day as a real estate agent. If you are considering buying or selling, make sure to call me. And if you're a real estate agent looking for a great brokerage, make sure to reach out to me to learn more about eXp Realty. And one of the many exciting things about being in a new month is that we get to take a look at the MLS figures. In this case, we're looking at May 2025, and we're looking at the important numbers being number of sales, active listings, months of inventory, our average price, and days on market. First, taking a look at the number of sales, we've seen an increase from the month of April 2025, but that's as expected. Usually May has more sales than April. That's because during the months like I would say February, March, April, that's when all this inventory comes to the market, and then the inventory gets sold thereafter simply because there's more product. But this year, once again, we have far fewer sales than 2024. We can see May had 7,000 sales at that time, plus there was less listings on the market. So what this is telling us is that there's certainly an imbalance between the supply and demand, but something I have found in this market is that sellers are more likely to realistically price their property before putting it up for sale. Whereas in 2024 and especially 2023, sellers they failed to accept the fact that the market was slower and that the days on market was extending, and they were still trying to list their properties at premium prices hoping that they would get lucky. But now it seems that if listings are coming to the market, most commonly they're pricing their property very competitively. And that's because sellers seem to have accepted the unfortunate reality that even if they were to price their property competitively, they only have a 20 to 30% chance of getting their listing sold each month. And one of the things I can really appreciate about this market, which I feel doesn't get talked about enough, again, I've been selling real estate for 12 years now, is that currently it's pretty easy to tell where market value is for a home. And that's because of the fact that if you were to list your property up for sale, it's pretty easy for you to see relevant comparables which are active on the market. It's also pretty easy to get your hands on some recent sales in your neighborhood. In the previous markets, what happened was it became very difficult for you to tell what market value is for a home because you couldn't find anything similar. Or if you did find a similar property for sale, maybe that sale took place a year ago. But now, if you were to list your property, you can easily find comparables that are active on the market. You can also find comparables that have recently sold within that neighborhood over the past 3 months. And quite honestly, this makes our job as real estate agents a whole lot easier because we have the data there. So if we're to make an offer on a property, we can justify it based on recent comparables. And we're far less likely to have people's biases get in the way or people's emotions getting in the way of the negotiation. It's just a calmer deal, a more logical deal. The buyer wins, the seller wins, everybody's happy. But now taking a look at the number of active listings, and this is the major talking point, is that we've actually exceeded 30,000 listings on the market. And as for this chart here, we can see just how high this number is compared to the previous months, but also how much of a contrast there is from the number of listings to the number of sales. So we've got all this inventory up for sale. At the same time, the number of sales a slightly increased from the month of April, although the increase is somewhat insignificant because at the same time, the number of listings increased so much. So this is represented by our months of inventory, which is at the highest point over the past 12 months at 4.96, meaning there's about a 5-month supply of homes for sale. But now taking a look at our average price, we can see it's slightly increased over the past few months, which is a positive sign, although the average price is lower than May 2024, and that's also represented by this figure here because we're looking at the different style of property. So we can see detached homes have dropped in value by 5.4%, semis down by 6.4%, townhouses down 4.5%, and condo apartments are down 6.5%. So despite whatever negative news you may have heard about our market being bad or prices coming down, I want to remind you, prices have only come down about 5 to 6% over the past year. And this really isn't much when you look at historical market downturns, and especially 2017, 2018, when we saw the foreign tax was implemented, then average prices came down a lot faster. And we saw within the span of a year that some of the properties had actually decreased in value about 40%. Although our average price is still down about 15 to maybe 20% or so since the market was at its peak in 2022, and that was before the interest rates started to increase. And here we're looking at the 5-year historical average price, so we can see 2021 to 2022 there was quite a significant increase, and since then we've seen a steady decline, unfortunately. But I'd love to know your thoughts about this real estate market and your predictions moving forward. Are you expecting the average price to increase? Do you think it's going to happen next year, or what are your predictions for the future? I'd love to see in the comment section below. If you are considering buying or selling, make sure to call me. And if you're a real estate agent looking for a great brokerage, make sure to connect with me to learn more about the tools and resources and coaching provided to you with eXp Realty. I appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next time.